Is 5 p.m. now an acceptable dinner time now that you've
Yes,
It's the
it
only
was
dinner
before
time.
and it is now.
Oh, I hate it. I call it lunch.
Hey, listen, we're not all like young, hip, swinging new.
Smart girl. Dumb questions.
Welcome to Smart Girl, Dumb Questions. I'm Nayeema Raza, and today my questions are around how having kids or even a partner can change your independent life. I thought no one would be more honest with me about this than my friends Alison Roman and Max Cantor. She's a chef, a writer, and something of a cultural icon, known for books like Dining In or Nothing Fancy. Think a millennial, mess-embracing Martha Stewart. Max, meanwhile, is an Emmy-nominated TV and commercial director who used to work on that Times travel series, 36 Hours. He and I actually met while working at the Times, and he's one of my favorite collaborators. The two of them are married. They met the modern way on Instagram, and earlier this year, they had a baby, the old-fashioned way. I wanted to talk to them because we're constantly fed these two conflicting stories. One, that having kids is the only path to a fulfilled life, and two, that having a kid will get in the way of your fulfilling life, breaking your body, your bank account, your relationships. So I wanted their perspective on all of my questions, including what even is a contraction? Does anybody need a gender reveal party? What does having a baby do to your sex life, your relationship with money, and your friendships with people who don't have kids yet? And while I started this conversation thinking it would be all about babies, I actually learned a ton about relationships. And obviously, I needed to know, how do you go from a DM slide to love, marriage, and a baby carriage? Here's my conversation with Alison Roman and Max Cantor. Hi, guys. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Do you always do a podcast on your date night?
We tried to.
Yeah, our banter, we just have to record it all. This is our first time doing something like this.
Together, yeah.
I'm kind of nervous.
Only for you.
Did you leave the baby at home alone?
He's alone. Yeah, we were like, here's a bottle.
Macaulay
figure it out.
Culkin.
He'll sleep
style?
for most of it, so it'll be okay.
The first week of having a baby,
Mhm.
we both separately had either stress dreams or weird moments where you're like, the baby. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
the baby's right here.
It is like you instantly have your stress dreams that used to be about work or about whatever that plagues you, that's in
Yeah.
your subconscious, are instantly replaced.
But it's like you lose the baby in the sheets.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we
wow.
both
You're
have that
sleeping in the bed.
same
You're like,
dream.
where's the baby?
You both have had a dream about losing your baby in the sheets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had it every night.
Do you
when
think
he
maybe you
was
have
first
too
born.
many sheets?
We have the standard. Actually, I have one fewer sheet than most people because I don't believe in a top sheet.
You don't believe in top sheet? You just go
No.
straight fitted duvet?
We actually
Fitted-
don't
fitted
really agree
duvet.
on the sheets.
I didn't say we agreed on the sheets,
Yeah.
but I'm
wow.
saying and that's also not true. Whatever.
But we both agree that the baby should never get lost in the sheets.
That's good.
And that's
good.
important.
Don't suffocate your child in
No,
sheets.
and we both agree that he has never gotten lost in the sheets.
Yeah.
Okay, good. This is good. Don't worry. I'm not
We're also
gonna
not
call.
co-sleepers. It's a whole thing.
Because Charlie is how old?
He is, as of today, he is 18 weeks.
18.
So he is just over 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
he was 4 months last Friday.
And what happens at 4 months?
Well, so Charlie was a month early. So
Yeah.
he is both 4 months and sort of 3 months. If he were born at the regular time, he would be 3 months old. If that makes sense.
Wait.
Developmentally.
I got to find out if I was born early so I could be a little younger. Got to call
Yeah.
my mom.
Exactly. You're like,
Yeah.
how old
Maybe
am
you
I
were born
really?
like
What's the
3 or
real
4
age?
years early.
Exactly.
But they don't really, the doctor doesn't grade him on a 3-month-old schedule. She grades him on a 4-month-old schedule.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Height percentage, weight percentage. One
Yeah.
thing that happens when you have a baby is all of a sudden you just measure everything all the time.
Oh, really?
Everything is numbers. Everything is time. It's you go from milliliters to ounces to, it's your
when
whole
he's
life is
first
ruled by
born, you
numbers.
measure how much milk he drinks by the milliliter. And you're pumping milk and you're like, I got 60 mLs. It's when have I ever measured 60 milliliters of anything and been so thrilled?
What do you think they did before they had, they didn't have clocks or?
Nothing. No one. That's
Or
the thing.
measuring
No one
cups?
did anything, and
Yes.
everybody was fine. We were all fine. None of us.
Yes.
None of these people in this room right now were raised with the technology that we are currently raising our son, and we're all great.
But imagine if we had been. Imagine how great Charlie's going to be because he was
You know,
raised with
sometimes I worry that it's
milliliters.
not, and I think that we haven't yet seen the effects of all of this data and parenting information that we have, and the phones and the this and the that, and the constant there's an app for fucking everything.
I can't just turn on a sound machine that all it does is make white noise without logging into an app.
We've also freed ourselves a lot from the oppression of the
Measurement
apps
hell.
and measuring and like trying
Yeah,
to
I
keep
feel like
track of everything.
You guys
but-
are cool parents.
Eh.
You're like
Ah.
bringing up Bebe, the French book.
We're trying to bring up
Bebe.
Bebe. We are trying to bring up
Bebe.
Bebe.
We had
I
a
have the book, I
mantra
haven't read
to
it yet,
do the
but-
like raise him like he's our second child.
We have a lot of friends, thankfully, that have kids. Some have one, some have two, some have more than that. But everybody agrees that the second time around, you're just
Yeah.
significantly more relaxed. You're like, oh, I used to measure everything and now I don't care. Like
Yeah.
you just kind of realize that. And so we're trying to skip ahead and be like, okay, maybe we can be a little less fastidious.
And how do you treat your imaginary first child?
They're thriving.
We're actually
They're
like
in college.
estranged,
You're
but he's doing
strange.
really well.
Great. So I have a lot of questions for you guys about parenting, but I want to start with where it all begins. Conception.
Sex.
Yes. Yes, that's what I
Nayeema,
would like.
didn't you hear?
Yeah. Tell me how it happens. My Pakistani parents never told me about this. I need to know. Okay, no, but actually it started in your case with the most chivalrous romantic moment I can think of. A DM slide.
That's right. It's a thing that every young woman wishes for in the year 2025. Wishing and hoping that you get that message that
Yeah.
changes your life forever.
Mhm.
It
And I
was a-
led with the baby, actually. I was like, I don't want to,
We
jump
were
the gun.
talking about babies from within the first 24 hours.
Really?
I think we actually were.
Wait,
yeah.
actually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you tell her about how they're made?
Yeah.
But that was
I
part.
already
That was
knew,
why I was
so-
like, I think if I can like back it into this, if I start with the baby, I can get to the sex by just sort of working backwards. From
And he
it.
did.
Wait, did he know you were broody?
Broody?
Yeah, broody. Is that what you call it when
What does
you
that
want a
mean?
baby?
Never
It
heard.
might be what
I've,
some people call it. But
I've
I
never
don't
heard
know.
that term. I think broody. I think like broody teen.
Yeah.
I don't know. English is my second
I
I
language.
think
so
like
could be
horny
completely
is the
wrong.
word, or like traditionally
No, I've
we
been
use the
horny and
word.
not wanted a baby.
Yeah. Oh.
That's happened to me before.
Wanting a baby, broody. I like that though. If it doesn't exist, I think we should all
We
credit
should
you
Yeah,
for
I
that.
Tell me about that DM. What was the DM?
Oh, we're going way back. We're
Yeah, I
already,
actually want to start with
okay.
how you meet. Yeah, how do
Okay.
you meet? on
This
the
is an
internet?
episode called "Where Do Babies Come From?"
Yes.
And it starts with a DM slide. Yeah, I was in Italy on vacation by myself,
Mhm.
and I was, as I feel when one is traveling alone, you have your phone as your companion.
Yes.
I did read some books, but mostly I was on my phone, and I was taking a lot of photos of myself. So I was there, and Max sent me a message, and I was like hyper attentive to my phone at this point again because I was alone. I didn't.
Yeah, it was a little bit of right place, right time. Yeah,
Yes.
you were also single.
Yes, for the
Fairly
first time in
newly
a while.
single.
Yeah,
She had a
Grateful.
single vibe going.
we had a mutual friend on Instagram.
Okay.
I through some very light sleuthing was like, oh, he dated this person's friend, like who
Okay.
works at this place with other people I know. Like he was sort of in an orbit that I could trace, so I felt safe engaging.
Instagram is the new kind of dating app. People
I
are
totally
sliding in.
agree.
So
Yeah.
you were getting probably a lot of messages at the time. What made Max stand out to you?
It was funny, and it was like sweet and vulnerable, and also not especially like thirsty, I guess, for lack of a better description. Like it was just like funny and casual. And again, I was like feeling flirty. I was feeling broody.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I was like, oh, I'm gonna like get back to New York and I'm gonna date
Okay.
and I'm gonna like sow some oats, etc.
Yes.
Little did you know,
And then I went out with someone and I was like, oh, I'm gonna marry this person.
we had a real You've Got Mail stretch
Mhm.
because you
Yeah.
were traveling. She was gone for like 2 weeks, and I was in LA, and I was moving back to New York. And so we were just like texting, and we did like the first like voice note.
Well, I was
voice
like, I don't
memo.
know what his voice sounds like. And I was like, if the voice, and I had like dated somebody once where like their voice was just like, it was just not the right pitch.
Can you do
If
an
I'm-
imitation?
I
of
can't.
that
It was
person's
much
voice?
higher than mine.
Yeah. voice
And
is
when you do a
important.
lot of online dating, as I did in my 20s and early 30s, like you don't know the voice. And so you meet in
Yeah.
person and then they're like, hi, nice. And then you're like, oh no. Like, cause
Yeah.
it just says a lot about you for better
Yeah.
or worse.
That's true.
And in his case, it was for better.
Yeah,
I
he has a
like,
good
I left,
voice.
I left a voice note. It was sort of like a caca, like, call and response. I wanted
That's
to.
actually what she said,
Yeah.
which I found really off-putting.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know a lot of bird signs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
And he was like,
what I
"Cuckoo."
got back, I got to say I loved.
Really?
Oh, I mean, ladies, am I right? Are we hearing what I'm hearing? This is a wonderful
Max is so
voice.
red right
You
now.
know, it was like writing letters home from camp. Like we were just sort of like in
Yeah.
constant communication for like,
I texted him 24/7. Like
and then we would like
but it wasn't-
FaceTime. I don't know. It wasn't
No.
weird. It was so easy.
it's sort of the way that we communicate anyway. Like
Mhm.
I write for a living. Max
Yes.
also writes for a living. Like it's very, if you read something Max writes, you can hear his voice in
No.
it. And I feel the same. So when we met in person, it was like,
Yeah.
completely seamless.
I would actually say not at first, because I was so nervous. When we met, I was so sweaty.
Oh.
Like truly, I was so sweaty that she goes, and it wasn't that hot out. She goes, "You look like a cartoon, like of like a sweaty, you know, like
Which
where
is
you
so
see like
rude
pizza."
that I said
no,
that.
no, it wasn't in context. I was like, "Give me 5 minutes." I was like, "I'm gonna take care of this. I'm gonna come back and like we'll be all right." And I like went into the bathroom and like patted myself down. And
I
then
was
we
just like,
recovered.
I was like, oh, it's so sweet. He's so nervous. I'm already going to
Yes.
marry him. Like,
Yeah, you're like, you don't
did
worry.
nothing
We
to
have the date
prove.
booked.
Yeah. But I think we both were nervous on our first date in
because
person.
of that, because we were like, "Oh, this is like a different thing." And
Yeah. And we were like, what if we're wrong? That would
Yeah,
be
and it
so
would be
crushing.
embarrassing,
Because how
and
many
it would be
times have we done that?
I have
And
been, I've almost married every single
yeah,
time.
you're
100
like,
times.
this is for sure feeling right.
Yeah.
And while
you
this
really
did
risk
feel
embarrassment
different.
and
Yeah.
like of your own like
Yeah.
you get your hopes up.
No, there's
Yeah.
this like very good Kierkegaard quote that's like your greatest.
Okay.
Yeah, just some Danish
MVD.
philosophy to add to my broody
That was what we talked about on our first
vernacular.
date.
Yeah, I
So,
brought some Jean-Paul Sartre and we just discussed, like, you know.
Can I say my impressive Kierkegaard
Yes,
quote?
sorry.
Yes,
Please?
please.
Okay.
Sorry.
It is the great. I'm going to paraphrase it. It's like the greatest memories are for our, or sorry, the greatest sorrows for our future. Sorry, blah.
I love it.
Nobody does it like
This
old
is
Soren.
called Dumb
you
Girl
know?
Smart Question. Welcome to my spinoff show.
Yeah.
Okay, no, get
okay,
through
wait. The greatest sorrow is for our future, especially the one we never made.
Wow.
Mm.
Like kind of like for unrequited dreams.
Greatest sorrow. There's some real painful
That's
shit out there.
something.
Yeah.
Okay.
TLDR.
Yeah.
Shoot your shot. You have to like approach somebody and not approach it like a dating app where you're like, hey, what's up? Like plans tonight? Like don't be
No.
generic, be specific. Go for like, if you're going to slide into the DMs of this person, it has to be purposeful.
I do think that everything these days is a dating app. Do we agree? Everything.
Yes,
Every
100%.
app.
Yes.
Not the
agreed.
baby apps. I don't think the baby
No,
apps.
that's not, I don't recommend that for dating. LinkedIn is a dating app if you want it to be.
The New York Times cooking app. Strava is a dating app.
What's Strava?
The running app.
Oh.
Is Strava, the running app.
You're not going to
No.
catch me running or on Strava.
Okay, we'll move on from
Let's
first
move, yeah,
they
we're
met,
gonna-
then
Yeah.
they got married.
Then we got married.
Okay, so how much did you guys spend on your wedding?
Pass.
You would pass?
Pass, but less than you probably think, but more than you probably think. In that, like, I didn't,
Less than some people in New York do.
way less than most people in New York.
Way
do.
less than a lot of people
Yeah.
do, but way more than you thought when you started the process.
That was my question. Like, does everything get comped if you're an influencer? getting
Absolutely
Well, if you
not.
want to like be like sponsored by Tito's, but it's like we're not going to do that.
No,
for, you know what
I
mean?
sort of had a
Wedding was not
policy of
sponsored
like,
by
there wasn't a price tag on anything that I felt comfortable with putting a hashtag of an @ symbol,
Yeah.
a thank you to for my wedding.
Yes.
Like that felt sacred.
Yes.
And that felt
Okay.
like we paid for the wedding that we could afford.
We also got married pretty fast, and like the time after, we got married a year to the day after our first date, and
I was like, we should do that. We should like
should
get
just
married on
yeah.
it, which was fucking Fashion Week. Terrible
Yeah.
idea.
Terrible idea.
Because I'm not like that plugged into
Yeah.
Fashion Week,
Yeah.
despite it being shoved down our throats every 3 weeks in
November,
New York.
yeah.
It
And then,
might be
like-
Fashion Week right now, and we just don't know it. It's like
Yeah.
Mercury being in retrograde. It's like,
It's
is
like-
Mercury in retrograde? It's like, well, it
What
always
does
is.
that mean? Mercury's in retrograde. It's always in retrograde.
What does that mean?
I should have asked Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Obsessed with your guest curation, by the way. It's like Neil deGrasse Tyson and us.
Yes, I only bring on the top scientists.
Yeah,
I was gonna
minds
say,
to
we-
discuss
Yeah.
Kierkegaard
We
with.
are the Neil deGrasse Tyson of having a baby.
Having had a
But-
baby 4 months ago.
Actually, you guys are like two creative people
Mhm.
in creative careers and in a marriage together. And that is something that a friend of mine gave me advice a long time ago that she was like, you're a stock and you should date a bond, which I had to then find out what those things
Then you had
meant.
Mark Cuban on the podcast, and you asked him what that meant.
I asked him. No, but this idea that like one person who has like a more stable kind of career, more stable personality, and then more creative type of person. I'm sure
Yeah, we didn't do that.
So how do two creative people make it work? And how does it compare to when you guys have dated the flat one, the bond?
The bond.
Yes.
I never had success with the bond. It wasn't for me.
Okay.
I think we make it work it works because we both understand what it's like to need to work
Yeah.
and to like really have a core part of your identity, like be fed and nurtured by our work. That's like not something that we can do for each other, not something our friends can do for us, not something that anyone can do for us, but like our work is very important to us, to like who we are as people, how we define ourselves, how we move through the world. it fills us up.
Yeah, I also think it's attractive and it's exciting, and we're very like we're very temperamentally complementary.
Oh, that's really
Wow.
nice. Did you just come up with
It
that?
sounds like a Rodgers and
Poem.
Hammerstein.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that like we also have like our medium is really different, other than kind of writing overlap. But I don't know anything about food, but I know that our sensibilities, my sensibilities in like film and TV and writing, and her sensibilities in food are really similar, in that it's like you want to do something like fairly simple and accessible at a really high level. That's
Yes.
like an execution that maybe, there's like little
I
flourishes
can
and
see that.
surprises, but it's not precious. It's not delicate. Like, and it's like very much comes from how our outlook on anything. So like we have this overlap on how we experience a lot of things that is reflected in how we approach work, that I find like instant kinship in.
Yeah.
And like, so it's like, it doesn't have to be like, I don't have to know anything about like tomatoes to
Right.
understand
He
like
doesn't.
why. And I don't have to.
They're red and they are fruit, not a vegetable. Am I
But
right?
to understand
Yes.
that like
Thank you.
when I go to some restaurants, I feel alienated.
Yeah.
And when I eat her food, I'm like, oh, that's so you, And I think at your best in your work, it's like you're doing that. We can relate over that. And I think that knowing that that's never going to go away, and it's such an opportunity. It's like I like the idea that like dating is so different than marriage, and it's like who you date and who's like exciting or interesting to date is so different than who you are like, I want to like a life with this person that like our children would look at them and like see that too, and be like, oh, that's a part of how my mom sees the world, and that's a part of me. And that's, I don't know. It's just, it's so much bigger and broader than kind of like mom has a job.
I love that.
That's really sweet. Logistically, it can be
Yeah,
really
it is
tough.
tough.
If I may.
Schedule-wise,
Wait,
it's
stay
really
in your sweet
challenging.
moment. I was seeing
Okay.
Alison just looking at you so sweetly and brutally. Might I say?
I'm broody again. Is it hot in
That's
here, or are we just broody? I don't know. There's nothing there.
That's something
Sorry.
there. That is so sweet. I really like that. I think I that really resonates. Kind of not an aesthetic, but a style, a way of doing things.
Yeah,
And,
you're kind of like,
yeah.
how do I want my life to look?
Yeah. Do you feel at home in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have just had a major unlock in me for like my dating life.
yeah?
It really changes. But you're a little bit younger than us, right?
I don't.
I don't know.
Oh.
Same.
Well,
Like
she was
a
born 3 years early.
I'm 3 years
She
early.
was 3 years premature.
I am 29. I was born so early. So where was your child conceived?
Upstate New York.
Yeah.
Do you know? Like, how do
Yeah.
I pinpoint the,
Yeah. Because, well, when you're trying to get pregnant, you're obsessively tracking your schedule.
That's when the
Mhm.
measurement
Not everyone.
begins.
Not everyone does that.
Yeah.
I was
Yes.
for a time. You go through this phase where you're like, we're not trying, where you're like not looking at an app and not tracking
Mhm.
your period and not tracking your cycle. And then if that doesn't work,
Yeah.
maybe you graduate to the app phase. Basically, you start like entering all your information in, and
Right.
like it tracks you, and you're ovulating on this day. You're really fertile this day. And so then I started doing that, and then you're like trying to conceive based on, again, your phone and another
Mhm.
app, which is extremely unsexy, unbroody, if you will.
Yes.
And so then you're like, okay, we're going to relax. So we're not going to pay attention. And it still doesn't work. You're like, okay, we're going to go back to it's whatever. It's
Got
like, it's so much pressure to say like, I'm ready for this thing. And
Yeah.
then when it doesn't happen effortlessly, it can feel really frustrating. So
No.
you're willing to kind of try a bunch of things, right? Like, okay, you go to acupuncture, you do the apps, you do the
Yes.
this, you stop drinking.
What was
you-
the craziest thing you tried?
I don't think anything was. I guess the wildest is we transferred embryos from
Yeah.
eggs that I had frozen when I was 35.
Mhm.
It wasn't a crazy thing to do.
No.
Obviously, it was just the most extreme measure we.
Yeah,
took.
the most intense.
Yeah.
Probably. Is a good. So you did. I have a really dumb question. Are you more likely to get pregnant if you keep your legs up after sex?
No, total myth.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
And
we
I mean,
tried it.
listen,
No,
you're
sir.
asking me. A, I'm
Yeah.
not a doctor, but B, I have asked that question and
Yes.
done the deep dive, and the consensus is no.
No. Is that the dumbest thing that I
No,
could have asked?
it's
What are
such
the
a
other-
common question.
Yeah, I feel like that just is gravity.
There's so much you don't know until you get pregnant.
Yeah.
There is so much you don't know until you give birth. Like it is
So-
every step of the way. Like I only know as much about parenting as somebody who has a 4-month-old baby knows. It really is so different for every single person. I do find it useful to talk to people about and to read as much as possible because, you get a lot of information on what it's like and what people did. And then you can kind of inform. The only information you get is that there is no real answer. And that does kind of make you feel a little bit better. But you're like, oh, this is a thing that could happen. This is also a thing that could happen. And it makes you feel a little less nervous or scared that you're not doing it right, that there's like a magic bullet, because there's not.
There's not. And I think that we are sold a lot of magic bullets, especially women of our generation are told like, oh, kind of work, freeze your eggs, it's going to be good. Like lots of magic bullets.
We transferred 2 embryos that were like perfectly healthy and inside my allegedly perfectly healthy body, and neither of them worked.
And it's crazy when they're like, you know what? There's no reason why. We don't know. So we'll just try again. And you're kind of like,
and that
what
is
don't
true.
you know? And it's.
And then we got pregnant naturally.
No, I mean, I think the process of it can be so academic and tedious and unromantic. And then at turns, it's also like the most miraculous thing you've ever been around. And that's really weird. It's so primal. You're just like, having those two kind of like constant thoughts running concurrently is really strange.
It's like kind of soul mind and the logistical crazy control mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are so many ways to like, if you think about a parent and a child, there are about 40 different ways that can happen and combinations. Like people having sex, people doing IVF, people having a surrogate, people adopting, people
donor
like
egg. Exactly.
donor, like 40 million ways that you can end up in this like very special relationship.
Yeah. Killing a man, becomes a widow, marry him.
Exactly.
That was
so
what
much.
I was just going to say.
Yeah. That's the dad that stepped up, the stepdad.
And we thought about it, but we were like, let's just keep trying. It's definitely different as a man or a woman in this equation. But for both of us being like, we didn't meet when we were like 22. So we both had pretty fully formed identities or senses of who we are, even just like habits and ways of doing things and like our own, sort of stubbornnesses, right? But neither of us had ever done this. So it's like
the
that's
first thing
a
we
really
truly
weird.
did for
It
the first
sounds
time
so
together.
dumb to be like, wow, like having a baby and getting pregnant was like a really bonding experience. But it's like it's like one of the few things in life that you're like, oh, I haven't done this. Have you? Like we've both been to Europe or whatever, and then it's like, but you
brag.
Right. Yeah, I got a couple euros stashed away.
He wasn't just DMing you.
South of the border.
But it's like, it's like you do those first things as a couple where you're like, what's your like airport habit and what's mine? And this we're like, I don't know what I do here.
There's
what
no
do you
point
do?
of reference on like what we do as a couple, what we do as an individual. How are you as a parent? How are you as like any of this stuff?
Which is really fun because then it's like every day there's some sort of new thing that you're like seeing for the first time.
Yeah.
So I love this. Okay, I want to get to how it changes your relationship.
Yeah.
I have never thought about that. This is one of the rare things you like do for the first time. And it's like a lot cooler than like bungee jumping for the first time. Although Max is now going to be like, I've done that.
No,
I've done that.
And I never will. And you know
jumped.
what? Neither of us are adventure people, and I love that.
We're not going to do it.
No one's going to do that. But I just have a question about this conception thing because it's always really confused me. People will say to you like, oh, I'm X weeks pregnant. I'm X weeks pregnant. But then it's not the same number. It's like they're 30 weeks pregnant, but it's only 28 weeks since their last period or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
They count the first day of conception from the date of the first day of your last period.
Okay.
Because that is the only way they can accurately date an egg.
Got it. So they don't count the conception dates.
So like when I went to the doctor for the first time and they were like, oh, you're 8 weeks pregnant. But I know that I'm not 8 weeks pregnant because they're counting it from the date of my last period. And if you start your period, you're obviously not pregnant.
You were told 8 weeks and you were like, no, it was 5 weeks ago that we were upstate and my legs were up against the wall waiting.
Right. But I know the date that because I knew when I was ovulating and I know that when we had sex and because we weren't trying. The doctor told me not to have sex because I had a procedure to try to figure out what was going on in my uterus. So I was like, okay, obviously I didn't listen to the doctor. We had sex one time. Not to be like, otherwise we would have had sex way more than one time. But I knew I was ovulating and I was like, I didn't like make it.
You were like, fuck it, we ball.
Yeah. I'm not, whatever. It doesn't matter. But All to say is I know the
You
time
know.
that we had sex.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to be with this couple who goes to Europe and has sex all the time. They are living the life.
That was a good throw to break.
Thank you.
Yeah,
always.
really great.
That was
It's
like,
just
I
so
was like,
natural.
wow.
Does when we eat matter as much as what we eat? It turns out one of the quickest ways to change our bodies might be just to shift our meal times. Of course, that's easier said than done, and here's how you do it. I'm Nayeema Raza, host of Smart Girl Dumb Questions, and this is the sponsored Dumb Question, brought to you by Noom. So our ancestors used to live and die by the sun, and that mirrors our kind of internal body clock. Where the sun is determines things like our digestion, our metabolism, our energy use. But when, thanks to Thomas Edison, we moved from candlelight to the light bulb, everything changed, except how our body processes food. So here are the 3 things you need to know. In the middle of the day, your metabolism is most efficient. Calories get burned faster, and that is the best time to have a bigger meal, say lunch. But as the day goes on, your digestion actually slows down. And that's why it's good to have your last meal of the day at least a few hours before you go to bed. And by the way, the earlier you get protein in your system, the better it is for your body's efficiency over the course of the day. But as someone who loves a midnight snack, it's easy to say these rules and so much harder to do them. That's why I love Noom, the behavioral change-based health app that helps me feel best in my body. Noom makes it so easy to set my goals, track my meals, including when I eat them, and celebrate my progress. Visit Noom.com today to learn more.
One word for each trimester of pregnancy.
Sick.
For the first trimester. Okay. Second trimester.
Buoyant.
Third trimester.
Short.
In your case. Is there any film that fits this 3-act structure? Max?
You know, I love a good buoyant second act. You know, like the more buoyant the midpoint for me is like,
Well,
you know?
short third acts is really the rule of
and a
writing.
sick first act, I find, it sets
If
the
you
audience
use it in
up,
the
you
like,
know?
if you're like, that was sick,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
nobody
that was
really
so
says
sick.
anymore, I guess.
No one says that.
Yeah.
That's actually a perfect 3-act structure. It's like a sick first act, a buoyant second act, and a short third act. That's what you want. You want to get out.
Yeah.
Once you're out, you're out.
You're gonna
all
make
told, it
private-
was a great pregnancy.
Yeah, you probably make fun of me too for like trying to put everything into a story structure, but the pacing of pregnancy is fantastic. You know, like it's enough
Says
for
the
you
person
to
who
Yeah.
was
I
not
know.
pregnant. How was it for you?
I just mean I'm like, it's really interesting when things occur in nature along like seasons, you know, not to, as Kierkegaard once said. No, like when you're like, oh, it's like just about when you're getting used to spring, like it's summer. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you just sort of get used to things and then they move along. And like
Yes.
it gives you just enough time to kind of like settle into it. And I think like already in a very short window of time with a 4-month-old, we
It's
can
the
see
same.
like that change where you're like,
Right.
oh, now we're already in a new phase. Kind of like right when you get like used to something and you kind of go in cruise control or you think you have it figured out, like watching the kind of like our lives are like fairly repetitive. And then all of a sudden you undergo
but
this.
awesome.
Sexy and in
And
Europe.
full of sex and cool stuff.
Yeah.
But
Don't
I mean,
worry,
as an adult,
Tell us
like
about your repetitive sex lives, guys.
sort
Let's
of
go.
like- you're sort of like you hit your routines, you know, and then that's all upended, and all of a sudden you're on this like wildly different trajectory. And it actually, I find it like really, it takes away a lot of stress. It creates new stresses, obviously, but like it also takes away a lot of stress because you're not like you don't have as much time to think. You're like kind of on the ride in a different way. It's like a really beautiful, like natural occurrence.
I will say that one thing that's become very clear to me, people, you know, I think when they're considering having kids to begin with, do I want to pursue this? Is this something I even want in my life? I'm scared. Like, what do I do with a kid? They're at a birthday party for their friend and their 4-year-old is screaming. And you're like, I don't know that that's for me.
Yeah.
What I will say is that both in pregnancy and in so far, again, 4 months in, like,
Or 3.
they don't, I mean, again, excluding, I'm talking about a baby from birth. You're not dropping into those stages without any semblance of being prepared. You're not all of a sudden 3 months pregnant. Your body changes very gradually. You are given the opportunity to like grow into something, to, you know, feel things as they move and change. It's not jolting radical change, except for being not pregnant to pregnant. That was pretty radical for me. I was very sick my first
And you
trimester.
knew it right away? Like you knew it in your body before you knew it on the test
Yeah.
thing?
I was like, I think I'm pregnant. But same thing with the baby. Like, we now know Charlie as a 4-month-old baby, which is because we've spent every day with him for 4 months. And like, who he is today is extremely different than the baby we brought home.
Really? I think
Yeah.
like, and don't you have a sense of like the essence? Because I've always thought like people, this like whole idea of people change or don't change. But I've always thought we're like the same essence as we
I think
were,
we
like,
are,
when
but
we were baby.
it's the way that they reveal it is so much more. It's he's got his shell on still. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't know how to communicate in the same way
Right.
as we do as an adult. He's born early.
But
so.
he's very advanced.
Did you do a gender reveal party?
No, absolutely not.
What is your take on gender reveal?
It's a no from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when they cause like massive wildfires. As happened in
Especially for any
California.
reason. It's, I don't know. I also think that like gender reveal, et cetera, are like built for the age of like fully putting your entire life on display. Says like a woman who does that often,
Right.
but like
Gender reveals are made for Instagram, which like we just need you to get off Instagram unless you are trying to date me. Just like don't be on fucking Instagram, right?
you know, today I was thinking, I was like full of some emotion I can't quite put my finger on, but it's like become an extension of LinkedIn where it's like people are just using it to be like, here's what I'm doing and here's what I'm working on.
Yeah.
And if you're like a person who measures your self-worth against like what you are making or working on, it's really bad for your mental health.
It's totally bad. And
Not that I am that.
by the way, I use
No,
it for
JK.
that a little bit.
No,
I
I
have to
know.
admit.
Oh,
And I have
same.
an
Of
essay.
course I do.
I have like an unpublished essay that I have in me that I've actually written and I should just finish it and give it to my
Let
editor.
this be your sign. Finish
Yeah.
that essay.
It's called I Hate Everyone on Instagram, especially myself.
Wow.
Right?
Pen it.
Don't you think that's
the world.
it?
Yeah.
It's like there's no one. The people I like on Instagram are like sometimes guys sliding into my DMs. old people, like grandparents, like the grandfluencers are fine.
Oh, I don't know that.
I appreciate them. I
Okay.
follow a lot of them because I have a dead father, so Instagram feeds
Okay.
me
Yeah.
that. And also I like people that are just funny. Funny
Yeah.
for no need, like just funny, like super
Yeah.
snake.
I also like it for furniture. Not that I'm not like buying furniture on Instagram, but I am using it as like, oh, that's nice.
yeah, I like
Something.
tables on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Antiques.
More than I like the people on Instagram. I like the
Yeah,
antiques
I
on
hear you.
Instagram. Did childbirth hurt?
I had a C-section. So the aftermath hurt, but the actual procedure I did not feel.
But the labor.
Well,
I
it
was like,
wasn't. It was childbirth. Yeah, I mean,
yeah. No,
my
it
water
counts. It
broke.
was
What's
an
the
hour
difference
before.
between labor and childbirth?
I would say I would consider childbirth to be the act of the baby exiting.
Yeah.
Be it vaginally or otherwise.
Stage left or stage right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the labor, yes, was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life.
And labor means like pushing out the baby?
Labor, sorry, I guess I could say the contractions that I felt. So your water breaks. I mean, again, this
I don't know how it happens.
You
Tell
ask
me.
50 women how their babies were born, you're going to get at least like 40 different answers.
But is there like an order of things, like water breaks, then contractions?
Yeah, but not
then-
everyone's water breaks.
Okay.
Mine did.
Okay.
Sometimes your water is broken for you. Sometimes your water never breaks. Sometimes whatever.
And when they say your water breaks, that means?
It is the sac of fluid, the amniotic fluid that your baby is living in, that membrane ruptures. And so that amniotic fluid starts to come out. So what is the water is amniotic fluid.
And it comes out of
Your vagina. It's not peeing.
vagina. It's
You're not peeing.
It just comes out of your vagina.
Yeah, fully. It's like a cartoon. I was standing in the living room and I was like, huh. I was like, that was weird.
And
And
then?
I was like, went upstairs. Sorry, I'll just tell this
Yeah.
as graphic. I went upstairs. I went pee and I wiped as you do. And there was a little bit of blood. And then I looked in the toilet and there was more blood, which I had never experienced. Some women experience spotting or blood throughout their pregnancy, especially early on, sometimes later on. And I was like, something's going on. We need to go to the hospital right now. But I was only 35 weeks. So I was like, well, I'm not in labor.
Yeah.
I just thought something was wrong. So I was like, babe, we should go to the hospital. It was Friday night. I was like, let's go. We walked to the car. I'm in pajamas. Like we just didn't even hesitate. We just got the keys and like walked out of
We
the
didn't
house.
have bags.
By the time we walked the 2 blocks to the car, I am fully soaking wet. There's just covered in water, doused in water, soaked in water. But the thing about your water breaking is that it keeps coming. It's not like a water balloon where you pop it and the water comes out and that's it. It keeps coming.
Okay. And then the contractions are what?
Contractions are your uterus literally contracting, which begins the labor process.
Well, I'm glad the baby came. The baby came. A baby's beautiful.
And
Baby
baby
came
totally fine.
Totally
Totally
healthy,
healthy.
Just ready.
perfectly beautiful. I had experienced hemorrhaging, had a blood transfusion. It was like a pretty intense period in the OR, but I was asleep for it. So it was more intense for Max, I think, than it was for me. But,
I don't know about that. But
well, in the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Afterwards, it was pretty
That's
intense.
scary.
Yeah.
But now baby is here.
Baby's here. He's 4 months old and he is thriving.
And what is having a baby? Like, how is the love for a baby different to every other love in your life? One friend described it to me like a low-grade MDMA high all the time.
That's what you said.
Well, only one of us on this side of the room has done MDMA.
Is it the one that's been to Europe?
Yes. Well, we both are Europe. We were leaving the hospital and I was like, I feel like this is what Molly feels like. Like this is, and that doesn't last forever. But in that first week, that is what it feels like.
Does that make you want to do Molly more, Max?
No, I had the opposite reaction where I was like, if this is what Molly's like, I can't take Molly because I'll do it every day.
Yeah. It really is that way. It doesn't feel that way now.
It's something that newborns.
But then it catches you.
Tricky.
No, because you're also so full. I mean, for a woman, especially the birthing person, you are full of hormones. You are full of, you're also just like adrenaline. It's like high. You're like, you're on a different planet. It is indescribable a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that there is some contact high for you. And in that, like, you're not obviously producing the same hormones, but it's something.
Yeah.
Then experience something. I don't know what it is. But.
There's just no other comparison for it in your life.
Is it like the Casey and JoJo song? It's like, close to me, you're like my mother.
Close to me, you're like
we actually said that. We were like, this is just like that.
So
no.
I said, you
Casey and JoJo.
Well, you said it about the MDA. I was like, wow, I was like basically there with you in the OR.
It's just that it's like an abnormal dose of feeling good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like the Casey and JoJo song.
Yes.
This is the most primal thing in nature. And it's totally humbling to see it. And then when the baby like smiles or when he cries or when he wakes up and he looks at you and you're like, I mean, there are multiple moments a day where you're just, you can't believe it.
There are glimmers of the Molly high.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the feeling is dead. It's more just, it's not consistent. Like there's just a bit more normalcy now.
Yeah. How do you avoid making a baby your whole personality or your whole marriage?
I don't know. Again, we're only 4 months in. It might be. It might be become that. But I don't think that we're in danger of that in that.
No, I think
we're too selfish. No, I'm just kidding.
I think that it can be tempting if you don't. I would imagine if you don't like love your job or you don't have other things that you really care about, other like curiosities or pursuits or whatever that excite you, like it's probably going to outweigh what other shit you were doing before. And you're probably would be like, I'm just going to spend all my time on the baby. And I kind of get that. I'm kind of like, it's like when people are like,
it is really wonderful.
Right. If people are like, I'm not like, I don't have any particular talents or things that interest me that much, like, I think I'll get into religion. I'm like, yeah, man, do it. Smoke them if you got them. Like, do whatever you got to do. And I feel that way about families and babies. And it's like, it is really purposeful and meaningful to like devote your whole life and personality to that. I think that we don't see that for ourselves and it's less natural for us. It's more like, I like the excitement of the fact that like, Charlie will recognize that in us one day as like, we are this family unit. And within that, we're individual people with individual curiosities and interests. And like our brain is not just devoted to this.
And also, I think when you look to other families that you admire, you know, people that you know that have decided to make their own families, you're like, wow, you're like, I really like them. Like they're
the way
doing
they do that.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. We love being with them as a family. We think they're doing a great job. And granted, you're not seeing everything, but you can kind of start to like mosaic, you know, things you like about. And there's like been families or couples where we're like, okay, we don't want that. Like we're also aligned there, you know? And I think that, again, there are so many ways to like have a family, be married, raise children, whatever. And having your eyes open and like yourself open to the possibility that like other people are going to like do things in a way that you admire, that you can like emulate or at least strive for, I think is like, is nice.
You know, like I had an experience where like, I was like, realized that all the like men, like male friends who are like single, whether gay or straight, like are so bad at talking about it. Like by and large, I mean, overwhelmingly are like, ask like the worst shit.
Even
Or like,
the
are
gays?
you, they're like, are you bored?
Not all the gays, but you know.
Like someone was like, are you bored? I was like, bored. This is like the most exhilarating thing I've ever been. But it's like, you don't know.
Yeah.
And then I asked my sister about it and she's like, yeah, you were just like that.
She's like, you were terrible.
You were so annoying. You know, like
So
talking
gets
about your
turned
dumb
on.
shit.
It's like,
Yeah, there are things like that. Like I feel like one of the reasons why babies look more like the dad for the first 6 months this is science. It's
Is
because
this science? We've had this argument.
This is science. Is this not science?
Max is
I
always
just-
trying to
more
debunk
like-
Well, I'm
something
just
that
like,
is maybe
I don't know the
science.
scientific
Yeah,
method.
but
I
let's
can't
say it
conceive of
for
a
everybody.
scientific method that could assess like the inner workings of
We've
a
literally
baby.
talked about this before.
Of a baby to like
Can we-
be motivated not to, a father not to kill a baby and like prime, you know.
It wasn't about killing. Wait, what? Okay, sorry.
I don't
the
know.
theory for
it
people
sounds very
listening,
pseudoscience-y to me.
the theory for people listening is that babies look like their fathers for the first 6 months because otherwise the fathers would run away.
I think it's
and
far more likely that
try
they
to
look
be
like their
with other
fathers
women.
because they also inherited their father's genetic code.
But then why does it
There's not like
change
some
after-
motivation necessarily.
Allison, what do you think?
Like a predator and prey motivation.
I don't know. I haven't done enough research. I have no
just-
theory one way or the other.
Did your first invisible child look like Max too?
He did, yeah.
Or did he look like
but
Pierce
also,
Brosnan?
Charlie changes every day.
I
Every
know.
day we're like, he looks just like. I'm like, oh no, he's looking like daddy today. Yeah, like we are like really. You don't want to hear how we speak in the home, but
Yeah, baby talk.
yeah, it's
Okay.
a lot
It's
of
real.
A lot of baby
yeah.
talk. Do you think that you will lose friends because you've had a baby?
I don't want to say lose friends. I will say the relationships change.
Mm.
And I think that having been on the other side of that as well, like I've been the person without children as other friends of mine have had them. It's such a intense shift that I think it's natural for those things to change. I think that there are certain friendships that have not really changed
Mhm.
or they've changed a little bit, but like they also changed when like one of them moved away or we got
Mhm.
married or whatever. Like it doesn't feel related to necessarily having a child. And then there are some friendships that change and in that you kind of realize that maybe there isn't just as much there anymore. And we don't really do friend breakups in the way that we do a relationship breakup, but sometimes you're like,
You don't text them and say,
I
I
think
just
we
am
should
not
see other
feeling that
people.
chemistry between us
no,
anymore.
but I think sometimes like,
So where are we headed?
yeah, they're
It's
very
like when you
it's
have it-
ambiguous loss.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the easiest way to describe it is when you have coworkers that are your friends and then you
Mhm.
stop working at that job and then you're like, we're totally going to stay in touch. And you get drinks a few times after you guys get new jobs, but then ultimately you realize the only thing you had in common is the fact that you worked at the same place.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Mhm.
And once you get a new job, you're like, well, what are we doing hanging out?
Okay. True or false, having a baby will completely change your sex life.
True.
True.
At least
So it's
for
not
a
all-
period of time.
Not forever, because you guys have sex all the time.
We are having sex right now. No, we.
This is a podcast
Yeah.
threesome is really unpleasurable for me,
yeah,
I might
it's-
just say.
we're really keeping it together.
Does how you think about money change?
Yeah, I think, you put it well, like how you think about the priority of money.
Mm.
Like, I mean, yeah, there are the bigger picture money things that come with like what's down the road or what's like urgent, right? And then there's also the like, is this worth a sitter? Like the
Mhm.
short term question,
Mhm.
Like is
Things definitely get a dollar amount. Like if you're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna like kind of like what you said about the friends thing.
Right.
It's like, well, for me to go get dinner with you on a Tuesday, I am gonna either ask my husband to like not leave the house, which sometimes he's happy to do.
Right.
And same to me. Like I'm happy to stay home. Or I'm gonna pay somebody upwards of $100
Mm-hmm.
to have dinner with you
Yeah.
on top
Yeah.
of paying for dinner.
But you would do that for me. You're pointing at me when you're
Oh, I'm
saying
saying
this, yes.
I'm saying one or a
Well,
person.
see,
yes.
it's so nice
Yeah.
because you guys paid a sitter to come do this podcast.
did.
That's very nice.
Yeah, but you also said you would pay for our sitter.
I did say that.
I'm just kidding.
I did say that.
I know. But
And I
that was
will.
very
That moment.
sweet.
But yeah. If a friend cancels plans on you or flakes, should they Venmo you for the sitter?
No,
no.
No.
absolutely not.
No etiquette.
I wouldn't. I would be like, great, a night
I
to do
know.
whatever the fuck I want. Absolutely, sign me
I know.
up.
I love being canceled on. It's my favorite thing.
God.
Except for
Cancel
on,
on
the
me,
podcast. Don't.
Daddy.
I know.
Yeah, really.
I do like it.
bail all day.
I want to do some food questions
Okay.
and then some film questions as it relates to parenting.
Okay.
So food questions. Does your child, Allison, eat like the best fucking food?
I mean, right now the child eats a combination of my breast milk and formula that I buy from
best breast milk in town.
Have
Yeah.
you tasted her breast milk?
Absolutely.
I have, but not in like a drink it way, like in like a curious
No,
way.
it was like a drop that we.
And
licked
you know what
and
it
you're
tastes like? It tastes like milk.
Really? It just
Yeah.
tastes like regular milk?
It's like
I
sweet.
mean, you didn't really
milk.
drink enough to know.
No, I wouldn't say I even drank it. I
No,
say
you
I
didn't.
tried it.
He tasted it.
She said
Tasted
something to
it.
me. She's like, which I think, I don't know if it's like a compliment or an insult or somewhere in between, but she was like, you just seem like the kind of guy who's going to like want to try the milk.
Yeah. When I was pregnant, I was like, you're going to want to try my
She's
best
like, you're
milk.
totally one of those guys.
Like,
I was
there's
"One of
going to be
those
like a thing
guys."
there. Like,
I have to say, when I wrote this question, I was like, Max for sure has tried the breast milk.
but it took him
Totally.
a while. It took like 2 months.
Well, we were just busy. I wasn't like fine. I also
busy.
like, well, it's like the breast milk is really precious in the beginning.
That's true.
You know,
and
'cause
you
you're
are
like,
measuring, again, we're
I'm
measuring
not
it by the
like it's a
milliliter.
little indulgent for me to be like, let me sample the Where's pal, and he's like 5 pounds. You know,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
But then when he's
He's
2
really
months,
tiny.
he's like, he can fend for
Like, all right,
himself.
all
Breast
right.
milk for me now.
a little,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. You can sit out a
Stealing
feeding,
from
won't
his
kill you.
son's mouth.
See, that's why the kid has to look like you. You might kill
I
this.
know.
If you were to write a cookbook for babies, what would it be called?
I don't think that I will do that. I say that now. He's 4 months old. Maybe when he's like 6, I'll be like, you know what? I have some ideas for how that could actually work. But it seems to me that most parents that I know that are cooks or cook in their home or have food around in some capacity, it's very like you eat, the kid eats what you eat. I do think there is something to like be said about the baby sort of like understanding that food is meant to be enjoyed and
Yes.
and it's fun and it's celebratory and it's like messy and it's delicious and it's something that they want to be involved in. And I think that in the same way, like we play a lot of music in the house. We light a lot of candles. Like we are like
In this
making
sexy house.
we are making the life that we want like our son to really enjoy. Like we want him to love music. We want him to like love being around our friends. We want him to love food. Like, and I think just by exposure, like hopefully all those things happen.
Okay.
Yeah, I also
love it.
think you are like, there's something about a kid as an audience for food where it's like, it's so, they're not, what am I trying to say? They're
They're gonna
honest.
definitely tell me my
They're
food
really
sucks.
honest about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like the most nervous I've ever seen for you to like cook for someone was like my nephew's, because she knows like if this pancake doesn't hit, like you're gonna hear about it. And like when he's like, that's crispy, that's crunchy, and
No.
ate it, she was like thrilled,
Well,
you
no,
know,
'cause he
because
goes,
it
he-
feels so.
How old was this food critic?
He was 3,
Oh,
and we
gosh.
said, "What do you like about this pancake?" And he said, "The crunchy edges." And
Yeah.
I said, "That's right, Jack," because that's I think a hallmark of my pancake
Yeah.
recipe is that
Way
Right.
to take your power back for the 3-year-old
that's what I'm
Allison.
saying.
Yeah.
I was
Take
like,
your
"You're not
power
going to
back.
ruin my self-esteem
Right.
today, not today, Jack."
Yeah,
Not
it was
today. 15 minutes
an
ago.
Although
unfiltered
I did one time find myself in a humbling moment making this same child spaghetti for Thanksgiving Eve, and there was tomato sauce, and he didn't care for it and made me rinse his noodles. So I had to wash the spaghetti
Yeah,
of the
Wow.
of the sauce.
It's
That
worse
was
than like a Adam
humbling.
Blatt
Yeah.
situation over
Yeah.
there. Okay. Love it. Last food question. If Charlie were to write a Yelp review on your parenting, what would it say?
Oh God. He would say, Allison is a gem of a parent. He would say that sometimes the milk isn't warm enough. And he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
But
Is it
When
5
it's-
stars, 4 stars?
it's like 4.5.
Okay.
Just because the milk temperature sometimes is too cold for him and he really hates that.
Fair. Do you have an addendum to that Yelp review?
that's a 5-star.
5
Oh, thank you.
That's a
star.
5-star.
We all know like nobody with a 5-star review goes on Yelp to leave a review. They keep their happiness inside, and all the angry people
Yeah, because
go to
they
Yelp.
don't exactly.
Only
Yeah.
angry babies go to Yelp.
I like to think that Charlie won't be leaving Yelp reviews. He'll be like, you know what? I had a good experience.
Yelp
I
will be
gave them my
replaced by
compliments.
something much more complex.
I
by
don't
the
need to
time
live
he's
my
there.
life like this.
Okay.
That's true.
Film questions for you, Max. How are you documenting childhood of Charlie?
All the time, but somehow not enough. I got a little Super 8 camera when Allison got pregnant, which is a nice, which we haven't gotten any of it developed
Oh,
yet.
I know.
And
It's
then,
kind of like a little time capsule.
yeah,
That'll
it's
be
gonna be
nice.
very
Yeah.
cool.
But then you have all these digital photos.
Mhm.
ton. Yeah,
Tons.
we take so many photos, and then we have some like film cameras in rotation.
Yeah. That we just
Um,
kind of keep around the house to like
yeah.
if
and like
if the
a
moment
little
strikes.
little Polaroid.
I have never looked better than when Max takes photos of me.
I know. The husband of Instagram.
Unbelievable. Like I'm like, wow, I'm so hot. I look amazing.
You
I'm
are so hot.
grateful to have photos of myself during this time. And like even the ones where I'm like, oh, I look bad, I look blah, blah, blah. But like weeks later, you're like, I'm so glad that I have that moment. So
Aw.
if there's anyone listening that's like, what can I do for my partner postpartum or like through pregnancy or whatever, like take pictures of them.
Take thirst straps of your postpartum
Take
life.
photos. Even if you're not good at it, take pictures of them. And it
And then
it
only show them
really
the good
is
ones.
meaningful. Yeah.
I love that.
And every woman I know wants that.
Yes.
Not to gender it. It's just, it's,
No.
that's true.
I mean, I think whether you've had a baby or not, you want good photos.
We also
Oh,
look,
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, we
Any
also look at the
relationship.
photos of him all the time.
Did you talk about your philosophy about sharing pictures of Charlie on social media? Sharing
Yeah.
them?
We did discuss it.
Did you guys agree, or was it like a J-Lo Ben Affleck moment?
Did they not agree?
I feel like she made it.
I think we have a better marriage than J-Lo and Ben Affleck did.
I think they're not married anymore,
know.
so low bar.
You know, love is love. I don't
Yeah.
know.
But did you have a conversation about it?
Yeah, I think like Max shares a lot more freely, but admittedly has fewer eyeballs
Yeah.
on it. And it's also your Instagram. It's like, what are you comfortable with? I think for me,
Yeah, someone
it's
who
a bit
shares
more
their-
complex because there's a lot of people looking, and it's weird. I still don't always know how I feel about it because on the one hand, I'm like, my baby is so cute, or I look amazing in this photo. No, but like, you know, it is your life, and you do want to share it, and you are proud of it. And I made something, and it's cool, and I want to like. He's so wonderful, and I want to. This is what's happening in my life.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel gross to me, but then
Yeah. I mean, Allison faces a lot more
pressure.
scrutiny
Yeah.
than I do. So it's a different consideration for me, even though it's like we're in that together. But I think as a general rule, like it's in the same way that you kind of like know what's right or wrong. Like I feel like there are things, given that their privacy doesn't exist anymore as a concept for a person born into this world, or maybe a different consideration that's born out of like former paparazzi mentality of the 2000s.
Yeah, I'm also not that famous.
You know,
like,
like,
what I mean?
if
Like
you're J-Lo, it is a little
yes.
different.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think being like, you know, we're not being stalked on the street by someone taking a picture where we have to like protect the baby's face.
I don't want to fact check you, but it was J-Lo who wanted to share her life and Ben Affleck.
Oh, really?
Just so you understand the history of this important moment.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But I'm a little team Ben, I'm just saying.
When a woman's
but
like,
I think it's like given that that's the state of any kid coming into the world now anyway, that they're going to have to deal with that among their friends. And it feels like we don't want to do anything that he would feel was a violation of him later and like misrepresenting him or putting him in a position that feels like goes beyond the degree of like at which his privacy would already sort of be stripped from him.
Yeah, it's weird because you're like negotiating with like a future person.
It also just feels different in that like most of my online presence is career oriented.
Yeah.
It's like here's a chicken, here's pasta, here's a whatever.
It's like
I wrote. Exactly. And then when I got married was sort of the first time like my personal life crept in a more meaningful way.
Well, your photos also got hotter, so then you had to
exactly. I got better looking. And there is, I don't know. It's very weird, and I think about it a lot, and I don't have a perfect answer or even like a definitive answer on how I feel about it.
I think we both agree that the emojis over the face feels a little silly.
That's not for us.
That's not.
I get why some people want
do
to,
it.
but
yeah. What about the artful shots where it's like always the back of the head? You know that.
That's not hard to do because when you're holding a baby, it is the back of the head. Like you're like, oh, like you're not necessarily posing your baby.
You're like it's either me looking hot with my husband taking this photo, or it's the baby looking hot. It's
yeah,
the baby
exactly.
today.
The baby is
it's a tricky
hot
one.
baby.
Let's do a rapid fire dumb questions round. Most overrated baby item that costs too much.
The Baby Brezza, which is a sterilizer, bottle
Auto
washer.
cleaner.
I gave it away.
One baby item you thought was ridiculous and now you swear by.
I was pretty judicious. I didn't really.
Yeah,
the Baby
I don't
Brezza was the
think we
only
have that.
superfluous item we bought, and it is now no longer in the home.
Okay, it's out already.
I don't
Yeah.
have an answer for that.
We're very lo-fi.
Do you now have more empathy for people who have crying babies on planes?
I
Yes.
always had empathy for
I always
crying
did.
babies on planes
Okay.
Mhm.
I always
because they're babies. Not to get all like Mr. Rogers, but it's like when you have a baby, you like look for the helpers. And I think people who've had babies like no, you know, it's like I can tell a lot of times when you're like pushing a stroller through like a small coffee shop door, like I can almost always tell like who gets it.
How much is too much money to spend on a first birthday?
Great
$40.
No, I think I have a lot of friends actually. We've been discussing this because they are nearing their children's first birthdays. It's like, do I do this? Do I not do this? It feels superfluous. I think of the way that I would like to approach it anyway is treating that first birthday as like a party for yourself. Like we are celebrating 1 year as a family. We are celebrating each other. We are celebrating 1 year as a family. I don't need to invite other babies to be sitting around a little baby who doesn't really do it. Like, no, we're going to put a little hat on. We're going to like, I'm going to make them a little sweet treat. I'm going to like maybe have some like close friends and family that have been around.
Yeah.
If they're around, no
Music,
pressure to come.
candles.
Yeah,
Creative
ambiance.
vibe.
But to me, it's like, it's an anniversary party of becoming a family. It's less so.
What about baby gifts? Do you think all your friends have to get you baby gifts? I have gotten so many baby gifts for people.
No, but we've really enjoyed.
We've really appreciated them. And
people have sent some really thoughtful things, and
and no, we haven't sent thank you cards yet,
books.
but we have the stationery and are going to do that.
I end every conversation asking, what do people on this podcast, these extremely smart guests I have, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Paul Krugman, and Alison Roman and Max Cantor, all the same ilk. What are you dumb about? What do you not know?
Most things. I don't know anything about being a parent yet. I didn't know that you had to when you give birth to a baby, they go on the mother's insurance, not the father's. So you have to have insurance. And then you have 30 days to get the baby its own insurance. I didn't know that.
Okay, but now you know it. So
Well, I didn't.
that's
What do I
interesting.
not know?
What do you not know? I literally, this is the
Baby
one question I
specific.
gave you guys before you came.
I
in.
know,
know.
but we're new parents. We don't do anything people
We
ask
just
us to
know so much. It's hard.
Well, no, you said what you come with the question.
Come with a question.
Yeah, my question was, what are they going to do with all those movie theaters
With all those movie theaters. No,
that are
people-
gone and bankrupt, and it's like there's no more movie theater
Oh,
in this place? Can they repurpose that building for something else? Can it only ever be a movie theater?
Okay.
Because they're so bespoke in their dimensions.
I get it.
I don't know.
What's
I'm
gonna
like,
happen to movie
we walk
theaters?
by a movie theater all the time that's now vacant on Court Street. And I'm like, what could this? It's like for lease. I'm like, well, who's going to lease this if you're
Yeah.
not another movie theater?
Right.
But I think about modern architecture and how
Right.
it's basically built for turnkey businesses to
Right.
mean nothing. So that's why everything looks like shit.
Yeah.
It's like everything's a white box. Everything could be a coffee shop or a florist or a pet
Yeah.
store it's like
That's why I live inside of a movie theater.
you do.
It's like I live.
Oh, I was like, maybe
That's
you
a
live in
loft.
a movie theater.
It's
but
a really dark
But a
loft.
movie theater can only be a movie theater, right?
That's
I don't know.
If you weren't watching movies because you prefer watching them at home, now you should go to save real estate.
Yeah.
Save the people who own those.
Or could somebody
Yeah,
rent
we're
it out
always
for
looking
something
out for
cool and
big
fun?
real estate
big
investors.
commercial.
That's
commercial
always
real
sort of like our
estate.
hearts.
Yeah,
empathy
BlackRock,
is
I
with
got you. GoFundMe.
Max, what's a dumb question you have?
like speculatively.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're going to have countries. If in our lifetime we'll stop having nation states. Like the same way you go through feudalism into whatever. I'm like, will it just sort of be like a disconnected digital world where you buy into here I am with this is my wallet, this is my whatever identity.
Yeah.
And,
the new
it's
sovereignty
tiered
is the
out.
individual.
Yeah, and you're all under a certain plan or something.
What are you thinking about this stuff, babe?
Oh, I stay up late. I don't know.
Right.
I wonder
I love
if AI corporations sort of subsume a nationalistic
Yeah.
identity.
Okay, well,
Real
this
estate
show is called Smart Girls Dumb Questions, and question was a little too intelligent. I'm like, what happens to movie theaters? And you're like, well, we presupposing a feudalist state. I'm like, okay, well,
All right. I love it. You are very concerned about the fate of countries and the fate
And
of
their movie
commercial real
theaters.
estate. Thank you for keeping your palpable attraction in your pants during this whole
Oh my
interview.
God.
I saw you guys just looking at each other so lovingly. This is so cute. It's really very generous of you.
I love my husband.
And now I'll Venmo you for the babysitter.
Everybody listening can Venmo me $12 to help me
It
be
goes
on
in
this
the first
podcast.
birthday fund.
Exactly. Thank you guys for doing this.
Wow, those two are so cute. I obviously had to reach out to their imaginary first child for negative comment, but the kid would not go on the record. In all seriousness, I have often thought that dating just gets so hard starting in your 30s because you're such a fully formed, independent person with strong preferences. But that conversation with Alison and Max gave me a lot of insight and hope into how two creative, independent people with strong and some would say esoteric or centric visions of their own life can find overlap and kind of navigate that love together and do all kinds of new and exciting things together, including the very animalistic, very new thing of having a baby. So lots of insights about kids and partnerships, but as Alison said, this is one vignette, and you could go out there and talk to 40 different people and come up with 40 different stories, especially when it comes to the pregnancy journey. And I so appreciated how honest and open Alison was about her journey to pregnancy. Because we're often sold these kind of myths of go out there and freeze your eggs and freeze your sperm. Those are all good ideas, but they're not necessarily a silver bullet for those of us that are broody. And on the topic of broody, I just want to end with this note. I was right and Alison was right. There are two definitions of the term broody. One is like a gloomy and moody person, and the other is a hen who's ready to sit on and lay some eggs. The latter is more like British slang, and as an Anglophile, I obviously gravitated towards that interpretation. Anyways, I'll spare you more of that or my Madonna accent, but please send me an email with all of your dumb questions, NayeemaRaza101@gmail.com, or you can slide into my DMs. Not necessarily in that way. That's it for this week on Smart Girl, Dumb Questions. This episode was produced with Claire Lichtenstein, Healy Cruz, and Diana DaCosta, with additional editorial from Holly Thiel. Our theme music is by David Kahn. And I'm your host, Nayeema Raza. I'll see you next week on Smart Girl, Dumb Questions.